Okay, House of Payne fans. So we're going to be talking about last night's episode, season 11, episode 6, entitled Good Will Nothing. Now, just so you know, if you were also expecting an assisted living review, unfortunately, it's not going to happen. Like I said last week, that review was just to kind of test the waters to see if interest in the show was, still there. Even though there were a lot of very, very, very kind and encouraging messages in the comment section, the video did not make the cut. My thing was, look, it needs to hit at least a reasonable number of 2,000 views. It didn't. It barely got over 1,000. So as a result, assisted living will not be coming back to the rotation of episode reviews. Just going to be sticking with House of Payne. I know some people are disappointed, but there's really nothing I can do about it. It's a show that I'm doing reviews on, or at least in this case, try to. Not making a lot of ad revenue, not getting a lot of views. So House of Payne, and that's it. So here we go. This episode, while the score might be low, I don't think this was a terrible episode. But I remember looking down at the timer for the episode. I'm like, wait, we're 12 minutes in and this is all we're really doing. Okay, so I'm giving it a 4 out of 10. Like I said before, I didn't loathe the episode. I didn't hate it, but this was completely skippable. I mean, so if I remember correctly, the entire episode takes place in Ella and Curtis's house. That's not necessarily the problem. It's, it starts off in the backyard. Lisa and Malik are helping Ella with some yard work in exchange for a good meal. And let's be honest here, I know Ella says, I wish I could pay all my workers in food. It reminds me of living in Lynchburg, whenever a friend will want to move or something. Like, for example, a friend who actually helped me pack up the moving truck when it was time for me to move last June, which I'm just sitting here like, damn, it's almost been a full year since I left the apartment. I offered money and he wouldn't take it. He's like, no, food's good. But my dad actually beat me to the punch and handed him some money. He's like, oh, okay, wow, okay. Because, I just forgot, it's like they said, a good meal. I mean, money is money, but a good meal, come on now, especially when somebody like Ella cooking that meal, man, shoot. All right. So Calvin actually comes to the yard. Curtis is upset and CJ is close behind. It turns out a friend of his, I believe, Greg Bernard, somebody he's known since childhood, actually died in front of everybody at the barbershop. Apparently, Curtis was challenged to a dance contest, and after busting out some moves, Greg tried to follow, and then boom, dropped dead. Floyd called 911, but it was too late. The important part about this is, I believe, and look, correct me if I'm wrong, please do. Now, going back to Love Thy Neighbor on the OWN network, I was under the assumption that maybe it was mentioned, but guys, that was like, 2013, 2014 when that show came out? Basically almost 10 years. I forgot all the info. And plus I only watched like the first season and a half or 2 seasons of it. But basically, I thought Floyd didn't have the barbershop anymore. I honestly did not know he still had it. So, as far as I know, this is the first confirmation that Floyd's barbershop is still in his possession. Meaning that it's likely that some of the barbershop characters are still working there. And if that's the case, wow, okay, that's cool. This reminds me of the one-off mention of, I think, Bart being, dishonorably discharged from the fireman profession back at the beginning of season 10. I think in regards to like the mayor or governor, having a hearing for CJ based off what he did, breaking protocol to save, one of the rookie firefighters, and as a result, he got injured. But after that, we go over to Curtis looking at some old photos in the album, and Ella asks about updating his will, and basically it's a brief conversation about the importance of it. It kind of goes back to the first episode of the season where Curtis and CJ have a discussion about, Ella and, he having a conversation of how they both want her to be the first one to go because, Curtis doesn't want her to be alone dealing with all the grief and finances and planning everything. Is just too much. And he wouldn't want to go first because he will be up in glory Yeah, that'll be a sight to see. And worried about her down here. So, yeah, it was kind of a follow-up to that conversation. But, after this point of the episode, it's just kind of, goofball comedy. Basically, everybody tripping over themselves trying to get in on Curtis's will. And that's about it. I mean, the review itself could literally just stop here. But, I wrote down all these notes. So, essentially, Ella just says, hey, get online. There are plenty of websites. You don't need a lawyer. Go on a website, create a will, just decide who you're leaving what to. And that's about it. And I guess this is the only part of the episode that's worthy of giving some sort of, hey, here's the message I think that's important. And, it's the importance of, and I don't want to just say black families, but any family in general. But let's just talk black families since, well, I'm in a black family. This show has black family. And I've seen more examples of this in black families than white families. From my experience, people. But it's important to not leave. It's bad enough, especially if if you're loved and you have loved ones and friends, to leave this world. And there's going to be grief, of course, but the last thing you want for your loved ones and family is to leave chaos, debt, no set will, people fighting over land, people fighting over houses, people fighting over cars and clothing. Just do the diligence, because Ella was 1,000% right. This is one of my favorite Ella episodes, by the way, of the fact that everybody's going to die. Just because you don't want to talk about it doesn't mean the day isn't coming. We have to realize we have far more yesterdays than we have tomorrows left. And she was just spitting game. I mean, like, the episode could have cut off after that. Forget the slapstick. This was an important message here. It really does make that difference of deciding who gets what, and what do you want? I'm going to be completely honest. I didn't know in the will, well, then again, it makes sense. I just never thought about it. You decide what happens. Obviously, if you want to be an organ donor, if you want to be cremated, if you just want to, standard coffin and get buried, that kind of thing. Yeah, it's best to figure that thing out, especially like Ella said. Well, we don't know if I'm going before you. I mean, what if you go first and then none of this stuff is, laid out? So what are we going to do? So this was just a great message. It really was a morbid one, but at the same time, it's a fact. It's something people don't want to deal with, but the shit happens and you need to be prepared for it, because it will, it might be leaving some people disgruntled about who gets what, but at the very least, they ain't going to be fighting over it because it's specifically stated in the will. All right, now moving on. Curtis is online and, he says, okay, if I go first, obviously Ella's going to get the house, and Calvin, golf clubs, whichever one of my grandbabies who's confident enough to get my bathing suit wear. Okay. So then Calvin, CJ, and Malik come in with fruit trees, but, Curtis obviously doesn't want them to be stumbling through the house with, trees, so he'll go back and unlock the back gate. When he does so, I think it's Calvin, or I forgot. Wait, actually, yeah, basically they all notice the will. Actually, I think it's CJ, and then Malik says, oh, yeah, we ought to look. And then Calvin's the one that speaks up, no, it's none of our business. And then CJ's like, are you sure you're not curious what it is? Yeah, okay, you got a point, cuz. So, he's like, wait, golf clubs? I don't even play golf. Well, maybe I'll start. So then Malik is the one that comes up with the brilliant idea of being, hey, this is our chance to cash in. So they all start to suck up to him. All right, so Ella wants Curtis to paint the back porch. He gets up to do it. And, Calvin's actually doing it for him. Malik and Lisa come over with turkey necks. CJ comes over with golf clubs because he's the one that lets it slip about, hey, you're the one with the, old golf clubs in the back, ain't you? Yeah, well, I just want to pick up a new hobby. So then Lisa's doing laundry, and then Curtis wants her to do it with another scent, if you will, scent. So she has to rewash everything. He rings the bell like a butler for Malik to come in and, wants grape soda. But then it turns out he wants round ice cubes. CJ actually changed the oil in his car, but he wants him to do the same thing for Ella's, meaning, hey, run on down to the auto place to get the right filter and oil and whatnot and change it for her. So then we go over to Lisa, who's exhausted from reloading the laundry. And while she's sitting around, Curtis wants her to go up there to the Raby Raptors to clean the attic. And then you have kind of a brief, argument between her, CJ, and Malik about who deserves what in regards to when he dies, and the fact that, you know what, why would he give it to you, you know, the older generation, when he could just give it to the young, and, you know, for our family. Watch your mouth, fool. I've dealt with him the longest. I ain't gonna lie, that was probably my favorite line. I mean, he does have a good point, given that, you know, CJ has dealt with Curtis longer than anyone else, even his own son Calvin. But at the same time, I think Calvin is the one who even brings up the debate. Well, hell, I'm his son, and I mean, that's a good thing. And then when Ella comes back from shopping, her and Curtis have a brief chat, and Curtis talks about how, you know, the house is clean, the cars are detailed, oil's changed, the attic's clean, all this stuff due to the fact that they somehow found out about me updating my will because, you know, CJ let it slip about the golf clubs. And as a result, these people are tripping over themselves in order to get good in on my final, you know, last will and testament. Ella can't believe they would stoop that low. And then Calvin comes back from the DMV after standing in line for 2 hours for registration, and just throwing it out there. All that stuff can be done online. I mean, I know my dad, like, for the past couple of years, anytime he needs his registration, he just hands me the paperwork, or go online, and boom. I haven't stepped foot in the DMV since like 2016, I think. And the only reason I did it then is because I completely forgot about the online registration thing. But regardless, yeah, he stood in line for 2 hours. And then at the end of the episode, Calvin actually sees the computer open with the new will. And this is when Curtis steps outside with Ella to look at the cars. And he reads it, which I think is pretty funny, because he goes, wait, I, Curtis Payne, plan to spend all my money before I die, aside from the amount necessary for my burial. And then the note says, Calvin, stop being nosy. Wait till I die to see what you get, you jerk. Then he calls CJ like, CJ, we've been played. And then Curtis busts in and said, you heard? Funny ending. But yeah, this episode was meh. I thought, again, it wasn't the worst. I know the score might seem awful, but it was okay. So, with that being said, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Did you enjoy the episode? Are you waiting for next week? I just recorded my preview breakdown because that episode looks pretty dramatic. But with that being said, folks, Goodwill, nothing. Was a whole bunch of nothing. No, I'm just playing. There were a couple good moments in there. So, give this video a thumbs up to show you like it. Follow me on social media. Links are in the description below. Hit subscribe and hit the bell icon to select all. That way you don't miss out whenever I post content on the channel.